hot day on the 14th of August in 2003, New York City experienced a major blackout that shut down the city. This is an account of my personal experience on that day. I was working on the Upper West Side, Broadway, between 76th and 77th Street, waiting tables at a restaurant. It was around 4 o'clock. I remember this because we were just about to transition from the lunch shift to the dinner shift. There we were, folding napkins and putting settings on table when the power went out. To be honest, I was excited at first because I thought I'd get to go home early. Well, I was half right. That day I was working a double shift. I'd already been there since 9:30 and I wasn't scheduled to leave until 11 p.m. All the power in the restaurant went out. The freezers, the dishwashers, the computer, coffee machines, all the lights. When I walked outside, I noticed that the traffic lights weren't on. People were standing outside their shops in apartment buildings, just looking up in the air, confused and disoriented. I remember there was a feeling that it might be some sort of terrorist attack again. The 9/11 tragedy was such a recent memory in people's minds, you could see they were clearly worried. It took everyone a while to realize that it was just a power outage, probably because it was still daytime. Buses were running, but the traffic had virtually stopped. The subway system was completely shut down, which was a problem because at the time I lived in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, which was very far away from the Upper West Side. It was a 45-minute train ride, best case scenario. It became clear to me I was going to have to walk home. But at least I would have company. I told my manager that I was going to have to leave. He looked at me strangely, but he knew how far away I lived, so he let me go. I started walking. Not knowing when this whole thing was going to be over, I figured I'd make a few calls and see if anyone I knew was around, so I could crash at their house or stay there for a little while. I tried to use my cell phone, which at the time looked something like this. But I couldn't get through to anyone. Just like on 9/11, the phone lines were down. I tried to use a payphone, which I found on Broadway, but that didn't work either. It was no use. So I kept on walking downtown. I passed 72nd Street, Lincoln Center, Columbus Circle, Times Square, walked through Chelsea and the Village, all the way down to the Brooklyn Bridge. Since jaywalking is a way of life in New York, pedestrians easily figured out how to navigate through the crowded streets. In some places it became like a party. People were drinking, cooking, and eating in the streets. Mayor Bloomberg announced that the blackout was actually caused by a massive power outage sweeping across the Northeast. The governor said 60% of New Yorkers lost power, and it took over 2 days to restore that power in some areas of the city. Summer heat, overgrown trees, outdated equipment, and human error had all combined and caused one of the largest power outages in history. 50 million people in the United States and Canada were without power. Funny thing is, the only lights in the city that stayed lit were those that were on the Statue of Liberty. Kind of fitting, actually. I walked all the way home that night and I didn't get there until about 10 o'clock. Even though the city was dark and everything was down, surprisingly, there were hardly any incidents of crime or looting, which is amazing for a city this size. People just managed to get along, maybe a little better than normal. So I guess it's true what they say about crisis. It brings people together. And I saw it happen in 2003.